Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Devedi, and in this segment today we are going to discuss about Indo-Russia relations. This topic is important from the perspective of prelims and also from the perspective of GS Mains Paper 2. And I would like to inform you that because of the rise in the number of COVID-19 cases, we have switched to this new format, and as soon as the situation tends to get normalized, we will move back to our previous format. So I hope you like this new format, and let's move on to the topics of discussion, of course. So first of all, of course, we are going to talk about why news. Then we will discuss about the recent visit by the Russian foreign minister. At the backdrop of this only, we are going to discuss this topic. We will also discuss about Indo-Russian relationship and the changing strategy of India, the challenges, the way forward. And in the last of the segment, I'm going to ask you a mains-based question for answer writing practice. So let's begin with why news. Because recently the foreign minister of Russia has visited India, and after that he also visited Pakistan, which actually turned that certain analysts have said that because of the deteriorating relations of Russia and India, between these two the relations are seeing a downfall. Then only Russia actually moved closer to China and of course Pakistan. Now that's not true, because Russia remains a time-tested, a long-standing and time-tested partner of India. On multiple occasions and at multilateral forums, Russia has time and again supported India, and because of this tweet, this is definitely more imperative. Now let's talk about the highlights of this meeting that took place and the joint press conference of Foreign Minister Lavrov of Russia and External Minister Jaishankar. It indicated that much of the discussion, whatever was covered, actually was the preparations for Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit for the annual summit later this year, which has been an institutionalized forum since the year 2000. And this will of course throw a light on the growing partnership in nuclear, space, defense sectors, as well as connectivity projects such as international north-south transport corridor. And the two ministers also addressed a press briefing informing about the various areas that were discussed, including the reports of the military alliance between Russia and China. However, Russia has said that there was no such thing as military alliance between these two countries, and it looks for an inclusive partnership. And Chennai, Vladivostok Maritime Corridor was also discussed, and of course we have already talked about International North-South Transport Corridor. Also, it was said that in the forward meetings, whatever plans are there to invest in the far east of Russia, this is the far east of Russia, will also be discussed. Okay. So let's move on. And it also said, this particular ministry meeting also said, that Atmanirbhar Bharat's economic vision can promote a more contemporary economic relationship in the post-COVID era. Atmanirbhar Bharat is a very important topic coming up time and again. Kindly be very proactive when you read about Atmanirbhar Bharat. And both the countries also noted the appetite for greater investment in each other. India appreciated Russia's support for its Gaganyaan program as well. Also, the ministers acknowledged the defense sector requirement of both the countries in the past year, and they have said that it has been expeditiously addressed. They also talked about collaboration in the pharmaceuticals collaboration sector, especially of the import of Sputnik, the vaccine Sputnik from Russia. And unfolding developments in and around Afghanistan were also discussed, because Russia and India and many other stakeholders, they actually want peace and stability in this region, and Russia is of course going to be playing a very pivotal role. Moving on, let's talk about this particular piece of news, which says that as India is rethinking about S-400 acquisition, Russia puts everything on table for Pakistan, but the space to maneuver in Pakistan for Russia is very less, because China has acquired and dominated the defense market of Pakistan since long. Let's see what will happen. And if we talk about Indo-Russia relationship, the Indo-Russian strategic partnership, it's actually based on 6 major areas: politics, defense, civil nuclear energy, of course, and anti-terrorism, plus trade and space. And India and Russia, they have shared many common international forums such as BRICS, SCO, RIC, Russia, India, China, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, BRICS, and many other multilateral forums as well. And Russia has strongly supported India's receiving a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. Besides supporting India's bid to join the NSG Nuclear Suppliers Group and in many other groupings, multilateral groupings such as Wassenaar Agreement in Australia Group, Russia has played a very pivotal role, very central role in getting a seat for India. The Indo-Russian Intergovernmental Commission is one of the largest governmental mechanisms that India has ever shared with any nation. So India should continue to build on that only. In 2009, if we talk about the total bilateral trade between the two countries from January to September, it stood at US dollar 7.55 billion. The Kudankulam nuclear power plant in Tamil Nadu is an example of India-Russia nuclear cooperation, and many other nuclear power plants are in pipeline when we talk about Indo-Russia cooperation in this sector. If we talk about importance of Russia for India, balancing China is going to be of utmost importance because India needs a friend when it comes to Central Asia. So in Central Asia, in Asia, if we need to balance such a big power such as China, after the fall of USSR, it has been extremely important. Also, emerging new sectors, if we talk about for economic engagement, these can't be downplayed because we have already talked about the Far East end of Russia. So when the Prime Minister of India went to Russia, he did talk about more economic participation in Russia's Far East. So this is going to be a major building block. Also, in Afghanistan, we need Russia's help to combat terrorism. And of course, because Russia has time and again bid for India for nuclear suppliers group for its entry in the energy and United Nations Security Council, a permanent seat in there, Russia is needed there also. If we talk about changing strategies of India, because since if we talk about the contemporary times, they are ever changing, they are more volatile, they are more unpredictable. So that is why Delhi is also growing strategic partnership at that pace only. And Delhi is actually getting more proximate with US and Europe. And also, New Delhi's own relative weight, its place on the world map has increased. And the breakup between Russia and China also opened space for Delhi against Beijing for after the 1962 war in the Himalayas. Russia has and India has developed ties which were actually called out by China. China was not happy with India's and Russia's relationship. So in the last few years, India has finally overcome its historic hesitation in partnering with the US, and so is Russia. Russia is moving closer to China and of course to Pakistan as well. So you have to be very careful with the changing scenario. And Prime Minister Boris Johnson of United Kingdom it's his visit to Delhi later this month. It promises a fresh start in India's difficult post-colonial ties with Britain, and India has also been expanding its ties with Asian middle powers like Japan, Korea and Australia. So India's place on the map is also getting bigger and bigger, and that is why India is changing its strategy accordingly. Let's talk about the challenges. First challenge is that India is going west. Now China's expansionist, also aggressive expansionist foreign policy, it forced India to shed past hesitations and actively pursue closer ties with the West, particularly with the US. Also, similarly, Russia is going east. Russia is actually moving closer to China and Pakistan, and of course India is a time-tested friend, and the Western countries have imposed hard economic sanctions towards Russia after the annexation of Crimea in 2014. After that only it started actually realigning its strategic, basically its international relation policy. Also, if we talk about the way forward, India should keep on engaging Russia into Indo-Pacific narrative, and prioritizing RIC in Indian foreign policy is also very important. If we talk about cooperation at multilateral forums, this is also very important. Let's move on to the main space question. Despite the foreign policy goals are taking them in different directions, it is imperative for India and Russia to bolster their ties. You have to discuss this question. All right.